In this video, you are going to learn Japanese intonation. In my opinion, actually in many people's opinion, including linguists, intonation is the most important thing if you want to speak like a native Japanese speaker. And if you want to master native Japanese intonation, watching this video alone isn't enough. Obviously, you need to practice, right? By shadowing or whatever. But what this video provides is the knowledge of Japanese intonation so that you can practice correctly. Alright? Okay, so let's dive into it. First of all, what is intonation? According to Cambridge Dictionary, intonation is the sound changes produced by the rise and the fall of the voice when speaking, especially when this has an effect on the meaning of what is said. This is a great definition. Thank you, Cambridge. Take a look at this example sentence. I'd pronounce this sentence like this. 日本で生まれました。日本で生まれました。日本で生まれました。The rise and fall of the voice shown by this dotted line is the intonation. To put it beautifully, intonation is a melody of a sentence. It seems like the difference between pitch accent and intonation is very confusing to a lot of Japanese learners. So here's the difference. Basically, when we say pitch accent, we are talking about an individual word. When we say intonation, we are talking about a sentence. As I said, intonation is a melody of a sentence, right? Before moving on, to understand Japanese intonation, you need solid pitch accent knowledge. So if you haven't learned pitch accent yet, please watch my pitch accent video series. The link in the description. Alright, there are 4 basic rules of Japanese intonation. 1. The pitch always goes up after the first mora. 2. The pitch drops after the first accented mora. 3. The pitch drops a little every time there's another accented mora. 4. Once the pitch drops, it never goes back up again. Let's talk about these rules with example sentences. Take a look at this example sentence again. 日本で生まれました。日本で生まれました。日本で生まれました。Let's see if each rule can apply to this sentence. First, the pitch always goes up after the first mora. In this sentence, the first mora is ni, and after that, the pitch goes up. So the first rule applies to this sentence. The only exception to this rule is when the first word of a sentence is a head-high pattern word. For example, 中国で生まれました。中国で生まれました。中国で生まれました。Chugoku is a head-high pattern word, so the first rule doesn't apply. When the first word of a sentence is a head-high pattern word, ignore the first rule. The rest of the rules equally apply to a sentence in which a head-high pattern word is the first word of the sentence. The second rule is, the pitch drops after the first accented mora. Nihon has an accent on the second mora. Chugoku has an accent on the first mora. In both cases, the pitch drops after the first accented mora, right? So the second rule applies to both sentences. Third rule. The pitch drops a little every time there's another accented mora. So let's find the next accented mora in both sentences. De is a particle, so there's no accent. 生まれる is a flat type pattern verb, so no accent. But it's conjugated into mashita, so the accent falls on ma. In both sentences, the pitch drops a little after ma, which is the second accented mora. So the third rule also applies to both sentences. By the way, I talked about pitch accent and verb conjugation in this video. So if you forgot about these rules, please watch this video again. The link in the description. The last rule. Once the pitch drops, it never goes back up again. In both sentences, the pitch never goes back up again once it falls, right? So the last rule also applies to both sentences. What this rule suggests is that there's only one pitch peak in an intonation curve of a sentence. So this kind of intonation curve doesn't exist. Let's try it with another example sentence. アメリカにいます。アメリカにいます。The first rule applies to this sentence. The pitch goes up after a, which is the first molar in this sentence. What about the second rule? America is a flat type word, so no accent. Ni is a particle, so no accent. Imasu is the mass form of iru, so the accent falls on ma. And ma is the first accented mora of this sentence. And the pitch goes down after ma. The second rule applies. What about the third rule? In this sentence, ma is the only accented mora, so you can ignore the third rule. The fourth rule. Yup, once the pitch drops, it never goes back up again in this sentence. There you have it. Those are the basic Japanese intonation rules. Now you know how important pitch accent is for learning Japanese intonation, right? Some of you might want to brush up your pitch accent knowledge a little bit. Just remember, what I talked about in this video is very, very basic stuff. Japanese intonation is a lot more complicated than this. Alright, so please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.